Welcome to episode 29 of America in Crisis, Breaking the Cycle of Addiction. My name is David Hunt and I am your host. Please set your DVRs to record. This show could save your child's life. We will start with an update from Middlesex District Attorney Marion Ryan. Up until November 23rd, 2021, there have been 193 non-suicide overdoses in Middlesex County so far this year. Our guest today is Colin McMasters. Colin started experimenting with drugs in his early teens and was addicted to OxyContin by the age of 16. After his life spiraled out of control and he had multiple run-ins with the law and lost many relationships, Colin sought treatment in Florida at a structured men's sober house. And now, 9.5 years later, Colin is a father and the director of business development at Chapters Recovery Center in Danvers, where he is in a position to help others. Colin, welcome to my show.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Did you have any siblings?
Yes, so I actually have a younger sister who's 7 years younger than me, and other than that, it's just the two of us.
What did you like to do as a kid before you started experimenting with drugs? What was your typical day?
So for me, I come from a relatively large extended family as well, but it was I was involved in athletics, school, family, events and things of that nature. So yeah.
Were you into sports though?
Yeah, so I played hockey, soccer, and baseball.
How did you enjoy that?
I loved it. I've gotten back into it.
Do you have sports injuries or were the drugs something later?
So I actually never had any sort of injury from, sports that kind of led me to that. It was more something that came down the line. So
roughly at what age did you start using drugs?
I started using drugs probably right around, age 14, 15, started experimenting with marijuana a little bit.
And that was your first drug?
Yes, yeah.
And when did you start using alcohol?
Probably right around the same time.
What was your drink of choice without using name brands? No free plugs here.
So, obviously at that time we were pretty much kind of raiding our parents' liquor cabinets and things like that. So it was pretty much whatever we could
so it was beer, wine, there's a whole variety.
It wasn't just whatever you could put into a water bottle and take with you to go.
And what other drugs did you start to abuse after the marijuana?
So I actually had my wisdom teeth taken out when I was about 15 years old, and that's really when I was introduced to opiates.
Okay, and what was your first drug? Was it Oxy?
Yeah, so I was introduced to OxyContin by a...
Without people's names, please.
Yeah, so I worked in a restaurant, and there was an older guy that had worked there, and he introduced us to OxyContin. Okay,
and when you wanted to get help, what programs were available to you?
At that time, there was a lot, but the bed availability was extremely limited. So we were kind of limited on, programming that was available to us. My parents didn't have money to send me to private treatment and everything like that. So I went through the public health system here.
Do you know how many times you went in and out until something worked?
I was in and out of treatment roughly 20 to 25 times, somewhere in that vicinity.
And how old were you during all this?
So I started going to treatment when I was 18.
Wow.
Yeah.
We mentioned that you're at a men's sober living house that helped you out. What were the programs there that helped you at that facility?
So for me, I happened to get sober, without treatment. I basically detoxed on the couch of a halfway house and went through the 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay. Lot of camaraderie at the house, really kind of hung out with, some guys that had significant sober time, that they had kind of been through the process before, and really were kind of basically role models, in my recovery and people that I looked up to. And that's really what kind of drove me, to be where I'm at today.
For the people that haven't seen my other episodes, we always hear the word 12-step program. Can you explain to our viewers what the 12-step program is? It doesn't have to be in detail, just what the steps are so they can understand where you start and where it ends up.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, as far as a 12-step program, I mean, we always say that it's not necessarily has to be for somebody that has a substance abuse issue or anything like that. Realistically, like a 12-step program is good for people at, in any situation in their life. Really what it does is, it talks about core values of being open and honest with people, recognizing, where you've kind of made mistakes or done wrong by people, making amends, and then obviously, the last step in the process is taking other men or women, through the steps, and having them, sponsor and support others, and continuing the cycle of the process.
Now you say support, and I'm going to ask into detail. Why is it so important to have a sponsor or someone there to support you as a mentor, whatever word you want to use? Why is that so important?
I know, for me, and what I suggest to, every newcomer or sponsee is, to have somebody else there that you can kind of relate to or rely on, in time of crisis or need, is a huge support system. So it's very difficult sometimes to rely on other people who aren't educated on the disease of addiction or kind of what you're going through, or how to take you through that process of really recognizing what's wrong and how to, get better. And obviously that's what your sponsor's there for. They're there to take you through the steps. They're there to be a support system, and they kind of introduce you to the 12-step community, or, whatever recovery community that you choose to be a part of.
Which is so important that they can relate to you, because I have an extensive knowledge of opioids and abuse and addiction. However, I've never been on anything. I could not tell you what it's like. When people say, yeah, I know what it's like, or I can imagine what you're going through, guess what? No, you can't. I can talk all day. I get 30 episodes out here. I can talk about it all day, but until I've experienced it, I don't know what it feels like to be on a particular drug, or wake up in an alley, or wake up from an overdose. I try to do these shows so people can understand there's help available and treatment available, but I can never say the words, I know what you're going through, and that is so hard. And it comes a lot easier with somebody like Colin, who's been through it, to say, hey, I've been there. I woke up in the gutter. I woke up on the bed. My mom found me XYZ at this place. And he can relate, and that's the hard part. You need somebody that has gone through it that you can relate with, not just a corporate person or a doctor, as much as a doctor is out there for you. It's so difficult when that doctor can't say, well, I know what you went through. Well, guess what? No, you didn't. So this is why I believe places like these facilities are so important with people that have gone through it before. They've been in your shoes, and they're talking honestly and openly with you. And that's why I bring these programs onto my show, to let you know, help is available, and it's sitting right across from me. Now, can we fast forward 9.5 years till today? Let's roll everything up until today. You now have a family, Colin?
Yes. So I have 2 beautiful children. I have a beautiful fiance. I have a great relationship, with my large extended family. And we moved back in February. Mm-hmm. So it's great to kind of be back at home and, kind of have that family unit again. But yeah, I'm involved in the family, 12-step community, of course, working in treatment, working with different organizations. And we, had talked about sports and things like that. So now I'm able to kind of get back into hockey, mm-hmm. and, other activities that I enjoy. And obviously kind of enjoy spending some time with my family, for sure.
Which makes you a positive role model, because here is somebody that obviously has gone through it, and here's a success story. If you get the right treatment and you put your mind to something, this is another success of people that go through the system, work at it. It's not going to come easy, but look what you've turned your life into. You've got a beautiful family now, family man, you've got a good career.
And I definitely think too, you had touched on, what supporting each other and things of that nature. I think, a lot of the times people have a certain stigma of like what addiction is. So definitely I've been able to kind of turn that around and show people that like it doesn't have to be that way. So it's definitely fulfilling. Yeah,
because it's no longer the old picture. I hate using this word because it's stereotypical, but years ago growing up, no one ever heard of people using heroin. It was always the guy under the bridge that's homeless and has no place to go. And now it can be anybody, and people next door, your neighbors, your kids, and some people, like I said, my heart goes out to the people that got injured and got stuck on an opioid because he just couldn't get off of it from a sports injury, and that's why I brought that up, or a work injury, and they don't get high from it. They just can't get through the day without it because they don't feel normal anymore. It's been part of their body. And I'm not going to get into details. I had to take, well, I've been sick for a little bit, nothing to do with drugs, so I've been very sick. And something that I was on, I couldn't wait to get off of, and it didn't do me any good. I was sick as a dog on this stuff. And just to get the stuff out of your body, it's horrible. And you didn't get any pleasure from it. In fact, you get sick from it even more. But when drugs get in your body, it just takes so long to get out of these things. And this was a medication that I needed, and it was horrible. So I can't even imagine someone that gets hooked to a drug that's something that's hookable. So you're now with a company called Chapters Recovery Center. Can you tell us where that's located?
Yeah, so our facility is located in Danvers, Massachusetts.
And we have a logo somewhere sitting around of Chapters. We should have a logo coming up. Well, anyway, what can you tell us about the building itself? What's it got in it?
So as far as the building is concerned, so obviously we have the clinical space where, you know, our guests, as we like to call them, come in and do receive clinical services. We also have there's a couple other offices and businesses within the complex that we've been able to utilize for our patients to kind of add extended services for them as well.
And how big is the building, roughly?
So the actual clinical space, I think is roughly around 3,000 to 4,000 square
we have
feet.
A picture. That's our new building?
So that is the men's sober living.
Okay.
So anytime that we have, you know, patients that are in need of living resources or sober supports, we're able to utilize, it's called Michael's House.
Okay.
In Wilmington, Massachusetts.
We're going to bring up Brian Tagg, aren't we?
Yes, yes. Good friends with Brian. Great guy.
I know Michael's House very well.
Yes.
Brian did a show on Michael's House.
Yes.
In fact, on his other new facility, Liberty, a few weeks ago.
So Michael's House is a phenomenal sober living. It's been around for a while. Very structured. They have you know, great outcomes there. They have a great community. So we're very fortunate that we're able to you know, have access and utilize their sober living.
And I noticed you had I noticed you had a little kitchenette somewhere. We might have a photo. If not, we'll superimpose it later in editing. But we have a little kitchenette.
Yeah, so that's at the clinical space. What we're able to do is, obviously, when the clients are coming in for clinical programming during the day, we do bring in lunch for them. So they're kind of able to bring in their own lunch, or, you know, get something from whatever has been catered in for the day, and kind of you know, relax. We like to create an environment where they feel like they're at home and not so much like it's a very sterile clinical space. So kind of bringing some hominess to the treatment.
Now, speaking of treatments, I looked at your website. Oh my God, that thing is huge, the treatments you provide. What levels of treatment can we get there?
So our program at Chapters, we provide partial hospitalization as well as intensive outpatient therapy.
And how does intensive outpatient therapy differ from partial treatment? Can you tell us what the two are, please?
Yeah, so as far as the partial program is concerned, what you're really looking at is your clinical scheduling is 5 hours a day, 5 days a week, where you're kind of working within a clinical space as well as peer-to-peer kind of groups. And obviously there's a lot of us around the facility, so if somebody needs support services or resources kind of outside the programming, we're there to kind of connect and support them. The intensive outpatient portion is a bit more flexible for patients that maybe are working full-time or have families and things of that nature and need that clinical support and accountability. So that programming is 3 days a week for 3 hours each day.
Now, you also have an outpatient drug and alcohol rehab center at the same facility. Well, how does that work?
So essentially, it's really just whenever patients start to transition from one level of care to another, and it kind of allows patients that do have a lot of, you know, life things going on, which is obviously what we're working towards, is transitioning the patients out of treatment. You know, that gives them a lot more flexibility to receive more one-on-one clinical care.
Now, what type of drugs do you find your patients coming in that they're under the influence of?
So obviously now in today's climate, it's you know, significantly shifted from straight opiates into primarily what we're seeing is a lot of fentanyl.
Okay.
You know, and obviously, I mean, you have kind of your standards, but mainly it's fentanyl and alcohol.
For the people that don't know what fentanyl is, I mean, I had done this on other shows, but for the people that are watching this for the first time, does fentanyl just come on the market as its own, or is this in another drug that they have no idea that is coming in?
It can come in a variety of forms. We do see patients that are directly seeking out fentanyl specifically.
Wow.
But I have heard of many instances that very young people that are maybe experimenting with marijuana for the first time are overdosing on fentanyl because the marijuana is laced with fentanyl.
And they have no idea this is happening.
No idea.
So you can put your life in your own hands by just getting a common joint from your friend.
100%.
Now, you also offer something called cognitive behavioral therapy. What can you tell our viewers about that?
So CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, like you alluded to, it's a type of clinical modality that we utilize at the facility within our clinical team, as well as other clinical modalities. And what that is it's talk therapy. So what we're really doing with the patients at that point is kind of talking through and trying to get them to change their thoughts and actions and kind of remove that negative thinking, that negative behavior. Why are we continuing to make the choices that we make? And kind of putting it out there. So CBT has been it's an evidence-based treatment that's been proven to be effective.
Now, you also offer the 12-step program yourself also at your facility?
Correct. So, now a lot of patients are seeking multiple recovery pathways. So we do offer the 12-step pathway as well as medically assisted treatment. And also if somebody chooses to do smart recovery or, utilize like a faith-based programming and things of that nature, we're able to connect them with services and resources as well.
Well, now that you bring it up, what is faith-based programming?
So a lot of the times with faith-based programming, you'll have people who would prefer to engage in whatever their chosen faith path is,
Okay.
And working directly through a church or an organized religion, and kind of working with a person within that organization to kind of deal with what they have going on.
Now, you have so much more that you offer on the website. I only brought up a couple of examples. Can you tell us some of the other programs you feature that your viewers might be interested in?
Yeah, so one of the things that we're really passionate about at our program is the family support side of it is huge. Not only to educate the families on the disease of addiction, which a lot of the times they just really have no information. There's a ton of wraparound services for a loved one, and a lot of the times the families are left kind of in the cold and in the dark with what's going on. So for us, bringing the families in is a huge part of our treatment. And also too, we're really working on developing true life skills with these patients. We want them to be able to come out of treatment not only feeling, mentally and emotionally stable, but we want them to come out feeling like they can actually move forward in life and into the world and outside of the bubble.
So they get some skills, not just being dumped in, here's the door, see you later, don't hit you nowhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's intricate to somebody's long-term success in recovery is kind of building up that self-worth and self-value.
That's very good to hear, because I know a lot of other facilities unfortunately don't. They give you treatment and you're out the door and you haven't learned anything. You might not have a skill, you might not know, and you're right back to where you started from.
There's a lot of programs that they do great clinical work, but it doesn't necessarily prepare somebody for how to go out and get a mortgage or continue education, things of that nature, which are some of the factors that can lead to relapse.
Okay, so let's start from the beginning. A patient walks in your front door, he calls you for treatment. What can he expect when he walks through the front door? Is it a dorm? Is he free to come and go as he wants? Is there a set of rules? Are there guidelines? Obviously, we know there's no drugs, no weapons. We all know that.
Yeah. So as far as our programming is concerned, a large majority of patients are going to be, stepping down.
Wow.
So here's the lobby. So they would essentially enter directly into the facility here. They'd be greeted by, reception, as well as I generally like to meet every single patient when they come in. So they can come in with their families. We give them a tour of the facility. They kind of see what's going on. But a lot of the times these patients are stepping down from a higher level of care, so whether it be a detox or residential program. And at that point, we kind of come in and we do a full intake with them. We do a medical screening, a biopsychosocial, kind of find out where they're at, and exactly, what their specific needs are as far as the clinical process is concerned. And then from there, we go through, rules and things of that nature. So a lot of the times, the patients are living within the community and just attending our, facility. while they're working or whatnot. So as far as rules are concerned, I mean, obviously we have a set schedule, you know, that they are, you know, responsible for maintaining that schedule, as well as follow-up.
So do they live over? Is there something they check in and live there like a hotel?
So we'll utilize, whether it be sober livings in the community, such as Michael's house, which we had talked about before, other local MASH certified sober living homes in the area, or what we've seen is a lot of patients are choosing to commute from home or, you know, utilize telehealth services.
Nice. Has there been any slowdown because of COVID? People afraid to come in with others?
Surprisingly, no. We don't really see too many barriers or objections to treatment because of that. You know, I mean, as far as us, we do, you know, monitor everybody that comes in the facility, take their temperature. If there is a situation where we do feel like somebody's been exposed, I mean, we definitely follow, you know, the guidelines.
Now, how long do your treatments last? If I walk through the front door looking for one of your programs, am I there an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, the day, the night?
So our programs for partial hospitalization is 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. And that generally runs from about 9 till about 2:30. Okay. And then intensive outpatient is the 3 days a week for 3 hours each day, which is the 9 to 12:30.
So that's basically the typical day. They come in, they get their treatment, you bring them, get some food for them.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously too, what we're kind of doing is, I mean, that's obviously kind of standard. But obviously, if a patient is in crisis or needs, you know, extra services or whatnot, we're constantly kind of monitoring what else can we do to like help and support you in this process.
Now, you're the director of behavioral. What's that mean? What do you do? What do you do all day there?
So for me, it's kind of a multi function type of thing. I would say I probably wear many hats at the facility. So I work closely with clinical, as well as other relationships that we have in the community. You know, sometimes people need more resources or a different type of resource based on what their actual need is. So my job primarily is to identify resources within the community that we can also offer to our patients, to really create like wraparound services for them.
Why is it so important to have facilities like yours available for people?
It's important because, you know, access to treatment now is critical in people sustaining long-term recovery and sobriety. You know, nowadays you see dual diagnosis, primary mental health disorders is a major contributing factor to people's addiction. And sometimes the clinical component and that actual clinical accountability and really diving into core issues and utilizing those different modalities is vital to somebody getting sober beyond, you know, the old school just doing 12 steps, which obviously we incorporate both into the program.
Now, obviously this costs money. Nobody does this free. How does somebody pay for the services? Do you take insurance, and how would they go along paying for this?
So we do take insurance, and we do scholarship people as well.
Oh, they do?
Yes.
Wow, that sounds absolutely amazing that this is available. What else would you like to say to our viewers? I'm going to open up the floor to you for a few minutes. Look right in the camera. I want you to look right in. You're on. You're going to get your close up. I want you to talk to our viewers and talk to them about what else would you like to say. I'm giving you the floor.
I mean, I guess what I would say is, you know, really bringing to the forefront what addiction is, what it looks like. You know, we talked about the stigma earlier, and I think a lot of the times one of the biggest barriers for treatment for people is they think that they don't fit in, right? The reality is in today's society, I've worked with doctors, lawyers, millionaires, billionaires, homeless, middle class, blue collar, white collar, it doesn't matter. It's affected a large majority of communities. It's affected a large demographic of whether it be financial, racial, you know, religion, things of that nature, you know, and not allowing yourself to feel like you don't fit in, or that's not me, you know, it's not that bad. The reality is you know, addiction will kill you. We're truly playing with life and death, and I've seen this tear apart families, obviously having 2 young children myself, I'm scared for my kids in today's society, and what that can kind of bring. So I definitely think having the access to treatment and taking advantage of those resources and really buying in, it does create, a truly fulfilling life. It's not always easy. It's not always the most convenient thing for a lot of us. But I definitely feel as though this was the greatest decision that I ever made in my life. By the grace of God, I'm here today. I could very well be dead. And I've been blessed, truly, truly blessed. Like I said before, we had touched on, I have a beautiful family, and I have the ability today to be an amazing father, an amazing son, a brother, a fiance, and a resource within the community. It's definitely something that if you're out there struggling or you have a loved one that's struggling, reach out, whether it be to Chapters Recovery Center or to another local resource or somebody that you feel comfortable with, reach out and ask for help.
Colin, you're living proof that if you go through it and you want to do it, you can beat the system. It's living proof. All you need to do is ask for the help. It's out there. Got an amazing facility available to you, and for people watching outside our area, there are other facilities just like Colin's that are available. Before we go into the closing, I just want to say we're going into the holiday season. I'm not going to be filming for probably the month of January, so people can enjoy their holidays. I'll probably be bringing the show back the beginning of February, middle of February, so people can enjoy the holidays with their family. So I would like to thank our guest, Colin McMasters, for appearing today. As always, thank you for watching. Please share this program with your social media friends. If you or someone you know is suffering from a substance abuse disorder, you can contact the Massachusetts Substance Use Helpline at 1-800-327-5050. This show can be seen on a rotating basis on Woburn Public Media stations and on demand at their website and on YouTube. As always, thank you very much for the staff to Woburn Public Media Center for making the show possible. I could not do this without them. The editing, the shows, the equipment they put on, the dedication. I could not do this alone without the people behind me at Woburn Public Media. So thank you so much for taking your time to allow me to do this show. I would like you to please enjoy our closing theme, Rise Above the Noise by Fireheart. Through the credits for important contact information for all our past guests. For America in Crisis, Breaking the Cycle of Addiction, my name is David Hunt. As always, thank you for watching. Watch all the way to the end till the music stops. You might find some shows you might want to tune into. Thank you.
Above the noise, you hear us cry. There are people who can listen to the sound if you dare. Rise above the noise in the air. The sound not heard is what we bear. Listen to the sound if you dare. Rise above the noise in the air. The sound not heard is what we bear. The whispers that I hear behind my back are those who never lost a child, a friend. So they lack a sense of loss, a peace that's gone with no return. Above the noise is how we cope. Above the noise is how we learn. The most important things in life